What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. All right, let's go. It's the Athletor Podcast. Luke Becker's coming on, and he talks about his time at the Gophers as an athlete, 2001, 10 All-Americans, what exactly went through their head after a semifinal round where they had 6 in the semifinals and all 6 lost, and how they came back not only to win a national title, but they put 10 guys on the All-American stand, something that had never been done before. All that and more coming up on the podcast. Don't go nowhere. Hey, everyone knows that wrestling is 90% mental. We're super excited to have partnered with Wrestling Mindset, the #1 wrestling-specific mindset program in the world. Make sure to sign up at WrestlingMindset.com using promo code Athletor25 for a $500 discount. Stop underperforming and losing to guys that you should beat. That's what we said. Athletor Podcast coming at you. Luke Becker, pride of the Gophers. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Just grinding away this summer here, getting some good training in with our guys, recruiting, and just and then trying to enjoy a little downtime when you can.
Downtime, I heard, has a lot to do with fishing. Is that correct?
Boating. I like not fishing so much, but being on the boat, cruising around, surfing, doing some water sports behind the boat. So I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, I've heard that you're pretty dynamic on that surfboard behind the boat.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I can stand up on it. That's probably about it. I'm working on the skills, but
Well, that's coming from Eggum, and I don't know how much his big ass is standing up on those things.
he's always trying to talk me up.
Well, we got to get you out to California, get you on a real surfboard. What do you think?
I'd give it a whirl. I've never done it, never tried it. I'd love to though. That would be awesome.
Yeah, you tell me when. All right, we got to talk about a few things. You know, I did some talking to a bunch of people. I talked to Lawrence, I talked to Eggum, I talked to a couple people around town. And the #1 thing that keeps coming up about you is the word consistency. Is that and Eggum says it's, he's like the rock in the room. Like he literally, not Dwayne Johnson, like, stoic, not just stoic, but the steady rock in the room that is constant. Is that something that you actively try to attain, or is that something that kind of just comes natural to you?
Yeah, I think it's kind of more who I am as a person or as a coach. Um I'm fun. I like to have a good time, but when we're in the wrestling room, we're serious, we're focused, we're dialed in. I want to get everything out we can in the hour and a half, 2 hours that we're in there. So I think that's more of it, whether it's we're putting guys through stuff, or even my own life, or I'm working out on my own. I'm just like, I'm focused, I'm in there, we're gonna take care of business, we're gonna do what we need to do, and then we can move on and get into whatever else, or have fun, or do that type of stuff. So I guess I'd say more that's just who I am as a person, as a coach, and kind of the way that I carry myself.
Fair enough. Out of the 10 guys in the starting lineup right now, which athlete is most like you in that way?
Um, I would say probably I'd say Max, Max or Vance, probably Max. He's like, he comes in, he's focused, he's ready to get after it, dialed in, and then once practice is over, he can kind of move on and just relax, have fun, do that type of stuff. But when we're in the middle of practice, like it's all focus for him. So I guess he's
Von
kind of the
Bauer
guy I would
seems
say.
Von
Huh?
Bauer seems Von Bauer seems like he's no nonsense in the room too.
he's no nonsense. He likes to joke around and stuff a little bit more, so um probably a little bit more outgoing, or not screw around, but like joke around and some of that stuff
Sure.
in between goes and technique and some of that. So
Okay. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Who is the least like you out of those 10 starters?
um yeah, I don't know who that would be. We don't have a ton of jokesters, goofballs, or
Hmm.
probably.
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at athletorlive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Caden Henshaw. If you don't know who Caden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Caden and we'll give you the first module completely free.
Probably they're not a starter, but Egan would probably be the the,
Really?
the least like. He's always telling jokes or messing around or being. We have a manager that comes in and he calls it Eggum sarcasm. Um, he that's his kind of key. He's like Eggum. I think that's some of that Eggum sarcasm right there. So, um, yeah, he's always
All right.
messing with guys and joking around and having a good time and keeping things light, which I think is important too, right?
Sure. And that was kind of what I was getting at, right? There are different types of kids on teams.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself gravitating towards the kids that are laser focused only in the room? Or do you find, because there is a way to go about being lighthearted in a wrestling room. There is 100%. You can still achieve things in a wrestling room without being um, no nonsense and all serious at all times. But I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how do you, that's not really your background, it's not really your personality traits. How do you deal with those kids that kind of come in and they want to goof around a little bit, they want to enjoy their time in the room?
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? Like every kid's a little bit different, and as a coach, how can I get to each one of them individually, right? And there's no doubt about it. The guys that are similar to you is seems really easy to work with, to build that relationship, that bond with. But I think for me over the years, I've learned as a coach, being around it now, that I as focused and dialed in sometimes that I am, that I have to come down to their level a little bit, right? And like joke around with them and have some fun. And I think I've gotten better um, with that as a coach over the years, and just trying to get to their level a little bit, whether it's joking around and doing some of that stuff and having fun with them, that lighthearted stuff. And I think again, I don't know if I'm answering the question exactly, but I think that's important, where I've gotten better at, like, okay, I know this guy, like I can be hard ass or straight laced, but this guy doesn't react that way. So I gotta joke around with him in between goes or some of that, and try to keep it light with him. And then maybe like, hey, we need more pressure. We need to do this, you know, and just create more jokes or,
Sure. And just lighten the mood. I
yes.
get that.
Yeah.
And it's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy. I, we grew up at a similar time. Joking around in the room was not, I don't want to say it wasn't accepted. It certainly was almost frowned upon. Let's just put it that way. Um, but it has been easier for me as a coach to take a more lighthearted approach in the wrestling room. Now, it is very difficult for me as a coach to understand and reciprocate that type of energy in competition mode. It just is. It's very difficult
Yeah.
for me. I have I'm pretty laser focused when it comes to Like, I don't want to hear you. I don't like, so is that a bigger change for you when you do have those kids that kind of need to keep it real light during competition mode?
Yeah, you know, it can be a challenge at times. And I think sometimes for me that I've learned over the years too is like I'm dialed in, I'm focused, I'm maybe pacing back and forth. I notice I do this a lot when the guys are getting ready, and not that even I'm nervous per se, but that's just kind of what I do. And I know certain
Yeah,
guys maybe don't react the right way to that. So I have to, knowing who they are, I have to really catch myself and you know what I
hmm,
mean? Like, hey man, this is gonna be fun. Let's go out there, let's have fun. Let's be, instead of like, hey, we need to get to this attack, this here, you know what I mean? I just have done
yeah,
a better job of knowing the individuals and saying, okay, this guy needs to be coached this way, this guy needs this guy needs this. And I think I've done a much better job of that as a coach, is understanding my athletes and trying to be again at their level, hard at times, right? Like,
sure.
but I need, but um, that's what they need to be able to compete the best. And to be honest, we ask, we sit down with our guys, we have individual meetings beginning of the year, end of the year, and we ask like, hey, what do you what do you like in the corner? What do you like before the match? So we have a pretty good idea of what each guy wants or needs. And then I just have to remind myself at times like, hey, I know this is what I would do or what I want, but
That's right.
I need to be here for this guy and make sure that I'm keeping it light. Maybe I'm making jokes or maybe, whatever it is, whatever that guy needs, that I'm doing what's best for him pre-match, in the corner, um, post-match, all of it, right?
Sure. My son, and we're going to get into, because your son's become a little bit of a hammer now too. Um, my son knows at an event, like when it's go time, if I start taking deep, deep, deep breaths, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, oh shit, dad's in go mode. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like he gets
Yeah.
excited.
Yep.
Um, but I guess my thought in saying that is, do you take the same approaches with your son as you do with the Gopher athletes?
Yeah, I think so. And again, more like I know my son and I
Yeah,
know what kind of how he is, how he reacts, what he needs, similar to our athletes a little bit. And I know that I have to do certain things with him to keep him to get him ready to go. He's pretty focused too. As focused as a 11 or 12-year-old can
yeah,
be, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Right.
but I can tell like when he needs, again, and this is people ask me all the time, like how what have you done with your son, or how did you do it? Where have, he's having a little bit of success now. So where's, how's he gotten to where he has? And I always say like every kid's different, right? Like I can't. My son was never going to be the guy who started wrestling at 4 years old and practiced 5 times a week. That just wasn't him. There are some kids that have done it and they're great. I've seen it done so
There
many
are a
different
lot more
ways.
that did it and were not great though. You
For
know that
sure.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, 100%. So I just like every kid's different. And um, I took the approach, and I knew when I first found out I was going to have a son, I was trying to figure out like what makes sense. How am I going to help him to be the wrestler that he wants to be, if he decides that that's what he wants to do. And I was like, well, what's the perfect way to do it? And I think the thing I came about was there's no perfect way to do it. Every kid's different, and I gotta read each individual kid and figure out what's the best path for my son. Or I would say that for any young coach or parent out
Or
there,
dad.
like figure out
Sure.
what your kids need or want. Even in, it's no different than what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Like some kids need it to be lighthearted in the room, and it works really well for them. Some kids need like you to be tough on them, and everyone's different. You got to figure out what works best for each individual, and try to coach them and push them and help them out the best you can on their level a little bit. That makes
Where
sense.
did you land though? Yeah, no, it does, but where did you
Yeah.
land? Meaning, and I bring it up because there's a lot of dads that get to me, a lot of them, and a lot of them didn't have the success in wrestling that you did, but they understand the value of the sport. Number one, number two, I think that the more information that comes out on a consistent basis, the less we're seeing these kids getting run into the ground at 14 years old, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that was far more prevalent when we were kids, right? Like
Yeah.
there were hammers in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and then they just fell off by the time high school came because they were
Yeah.
exhausted.
Yeah.
I remember as well, my wife busts my chops about it all the time. When we knew we were going to have a son, my brain started going immediately too, right? And so where I landed with him was if he was anything like me, right? Like, which I assume he's going to be, um, taller, lankier, not the strongest, fastest athlete, you're going to have some type of technique involved. And then, so I called him like this experiment, in terms of wrestling. And
Yeah.
he actually used it for like his Instagram handle until all the kids made fun of him forever. And then he changed it. But the point that I'm trying to make though, is that he was an experiment. I didn't teach him a penetration step firt. I taught him a slide by. You're going to have to be a little slicker, right? You're
Yeah.
going to have to find ways to get an elbow or get an over tie and be a little bit slicker, especially at a young age when puberty hasn't set in and stuff like that. Now, once puberty sets in, yeah, we're hitting penetration steps and we're hitting swing singles, but
Yeah.
up until that point. So where did you land? And I'm just talking about your son because
Yeah.
again, every kid's going to be completely different, right? Did he have athletic prowess early that you could kind of implement a lot of that stuff?
Yeah. As far as like the technique, I would say, he's pretty fortunate. He's got a really good feel as far as, similar to me a little bit, his hips and and some of that stuff. And he's got strength there. Like I would say like the technique piece is the part we need to really dive into now. I think he's starting to understand the
Mhm.
sport enough where we can really dive in to the technique. But I think the big thing for him is him and I sit down at the beginning of every year. What I try to do is make it his own a little bit and make sure he has some say in what we're doing. So we sit down at the beginning
Mhm.
of every year, said, okay, here's what we did last year. What are your goals for this year? What do you want to accomplish? And he'll say XYZ. And I say, okay,
Mhm.
so if this is what we want to do, here's what I feel like we should do practice wise. Here's some of the tournaments I feel like we should hit. And basically it's like, okay, these are your goals, this is what I feel like we should do, okay, here's our plan moving forward. And then I think it's easier for me and for him to say, hey, when he's like, I don't feel like going to practice today, because they're kids, they
Yeah.
don't want to do it every day necessarily. So I say, hey, Bo, remember, these are your goals. This is what we decided was best for us. So it's easier for me to say, like, hey, okay, yeah, but we're gonna go today because this is what we committed to. This is what we decided was the best plan together. It's not me telling him like, hey, this is what you're doing. This is we sat down at the beginning of the year and we put this together. This is your plan that I helped you put together, and that's what we're gonna do. At the same time, I would say there's times where I know he's had a lot and we have practice on Sunday, maybe wrestled in a tournament on Saturday. We got practice on Sunday. And to be honest, I don't know if I really want to go.
No, of
I know he
course.
probably, I know he probably doesn't go. I know he needs a day off probably. So I'll say, hey,
Mhm.
Bo, what do you want to do? We got to go to practice on Sunday. Knowing that maybe he's feeling it too. And he'll say, no, I'd rather not go. And it's like, okay, perfect. That's what I felt was good, was best anyway. If he says he wants to go, I'll take him, right? Because
Mhm.
he feels like he needs to go, wants to go. But I guess what I'm trying to say is even times off when I think he needs some time off, I kind of let him make the decision so he feels like he has say in it. And it's not just dad saying all the time. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, 100%. And maybe I should take a little bit of heed because I have to force my kid to take days off. Have to.
Yeah.
because otherwise he'd run him. Like, I'm like, you're not, like, do you notice a trend? Like, you've just gone 12 days in a row and your performance is sucking, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't see a correlation there. So, but maybe I should, ask him like, hey man, do you see a correlation? You know,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, like it's just like anything else, right? Like training. I mean, we're in the world where it's like you got to do more, 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 more. And there's no doubt
Mhm.
about it. You have to push yourself. You have to, you have to do extra. You have to do that. But at the same time, your body needs breaks. I tell our guys all the time, and your mind needs a break. Like we right now we're going through a cycle. We're going through cycles throughout the summer, and we have time built in where we have time off. And I think it's really important for those guys. There's no doubt about it. If you're not trained during the summer, you're falling behind. So we need to train, we need to push, we need to do those things. But at the same time, you need to take time off. Your body needs the break. But more importantly, as much as I think sometimes we want to be there not because we want to be there, but we want to come in and get a workout in because we feel like we have to or we're falling behind. But ultimately, if we take that time off, like that mental break that we get is, I think, super positive for us. Plus, when I come back, now I'm excited to be back on. I'm not just there because I feel like I have to or I'm falling behind, but I'm excited to actually be there. So I think that mental break and that time off is really important at obviously the college level, but even the youth level. Like my son plays football. We practice a little bit in the fall, but we don't. We'll go maybe one day a week if we don't, if we don't have football games or something like that. But he's just young enough. He needs, and I know my son. He needs time off, and at the same time, um, we get to wrestling season, and we'll go to the first tournament of the year, and maybe we're not at our peak yet, right? Which I don't want to be at our peak at
Sure.
the beginning of the year, but we'll get beat, and I'm like, man, we're behind these guys a little bit, but it's maybe because they had 4 or 5 competitions already, and we're walking into our first one. But I don't care about the beginning of the season. I don't really care about even the end of the season at this point, right? Like I do because I know what he wants, but I want long term, right? Like I want longevity. I want
Sure.
him to love the sport like I did and go on to the next, whatever level that is, you know, to
Mhm.
go on and have fun and wrestle as long as he can, in the future.
Yeah, no, longevity is we say it all the time on this podcast. Longevity is the street cred of this sport.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It is. It's just like, okay, congrats. You want like whatever. We can get into a million different directions there. But all right, let's switch gears a little bit, man. Um, you were on that 2001 team.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, man. All right. First of all, we got to talk about what it was like that year when you guys put 10 guys on the podium. And then more importantly, what the group chat was like this March. 'Cause I can't imagine it was great.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it was special, no doubt about it. We had such the way we were able to win that year, because and we had some guys that could have maybe should have been in the finals or won that year. Things didn't go perfectly. We had, as crazy it is, we had a great year. We won Big Tens. We were killing it. We had 6 guys in the semifinals, and we lost all of them. Wasn't for a lack of effort, right? But we got maybe a bad call or two here or there, but things just didn't go our way, um, and it was kind of crushing in a way because it was finally like we were so close. We were going to get over the hump. This was our year to win a title, and then we dropped all 6 of those matches in the semifinals. But on the other side, we won our 4 blood round matches, right? So we got everyone to come through. But even that night, we got back to the hotel, and it was still everyone was kind of still disappointed, and we're sitting in the team hotel, and I can't remember if it was Joe or who brought it up, but they're like, "Hey guys, man, we can score a lot of points in tomorrow morning session. Like if we come out and we compete, we can score a lot of points." And I think our minds kind of flipped there, and we were super excited. I think the finals were at 3 p.m. That year. So weigh-ins were at like 5 a.m. or something like that. It was crazy. So we were up super early. But I remember we got in the cars and we had Hartung and Kraft and those guys who had kind of set the tone for Minnesota wrestling prior to, to my group, Jared and Lowney and Lewis and those guys that got there. They had Who Let the Dogs Out blaring in the vans when we walked out of the hotel. And I remember just walking to the arena. It wasn't like there wasn't pressure. There wasn't, oh man, we blew this thing. What are we going to do? We were super excited. We went out there and we just kind of rolled that morning session and scored a ton of points. It was a pretty amazing feeling that we were all able to come together and go out and do our parts to come back after kind of a disappointing Friday night. And then, just got things rolling. And once we started winning matches that Saturday morning, it was contagious. It was hard to stop.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. At what point does it kind of dawn on you? Because it's a sealed deal on Saturday or on Friday night that you guys just made history. Does that have any impact on like, hey, look, we dropped 6 of 6 in the semis. That sucks. But we just did something that nobody else has ever done.
Yeah. I think it was more, I don't know if we even, because I think we were up by quite a few points and then all of a sudden we were down by 12 points or something like that. Because I will put 4 in the finals or something. Because we were just in such a good spot. I knew that we had 10 All-Americans, but the goal was to win it. We hadn't won it yet. So I don't know if we even thought about the 10 All-Americans at that point, right? It was like, we got to find a way to win this thing. Like, that's it. Then when we started rolling the next morning and we knew we were going to win this thing, then I think that's more when it set in that we, not only did we win it, but we won it the way we did. There wasn't one guy. I think that the thing that's special about that there wasn't one guy who was sitting on the sidelines bumming because, we won a national title, but this guy wasn't on the podium. I think that's what's so special about it. Winning it with the 10 All-Americans the way we did, that everyone was a part of it and a contributor and was on the podium.
Let me ask you this, though. If you remember, and it's been a few years now, if you can remember, what was the difference between the atmosphere in the warm-ups before session 4 as opposed to before that Saturday morning session? What were the warm-ups like? Because I know, like, once everybody's through, everybody got through. Like, that's wild. Like, that's a freeing thing, right? Was the warm-ups very different than the night before?
Yeah, I think so. Again, there was excitement in the air. We were like, we knew that we could still win this thing. It was like kind of like, how even we talked about earlier, like just solely like focused business, this and that. I feel like we were just free. We were laughing, we were joking around. Not that we weren't focused, but it was like we were just excited that like, hey, we're going to make this thing happen. We're going to go out and get it. We're going to take it. Like, no one was worried about, okay, we're already all on the podium. Now we just got to come together, do our part, go win matches and win this thing. I feel like there wasn't as stressful as it probably could have been, or, we've seen at times. Nobody felt the pressure. We were just going to go out and compete and do it for each other and do it for, all of our fans and, all the past guys that had come before us. It was a really relaxed, like, just, hey, let's have fun. Let's go out. Let's do this thing.
Do you take any of that as a lesson in what you do now?
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, throughout my career as an athlete from early on till the end, like, I learned to relax a little bit and not put so much individual pressure in some of that. And that's a lot about what I talk to my athletes about. Like, hey, I know we're competitors. I know the ultimate goals to stand on the top of the podium. I know we want to win every match, but let's forget about those things. You know, when we're training, when we're doing those type of things, like we know, like I gotta put the time in. I gotta focus. I gotta work on these things. But when we step out and compete, love the process. Like I talk about it with all of our guys, fall in love with the process, not the wins or losses, not trying to be the best all the time. Let's fall in love with the process and get better at wrestling, get better at competing, get better at, and I think when you do that, you get rid of the stressors of the wins and the losses. And um, so I think that's, you know, again, like things didn't go perfect that year, right?
No.
We were supposed to have, I think maybe 3 or 4 guys were supposed to win in the semis, right? Be in the finals. It didn't go perfect, but it was like, okay, like it's just part of the process. All right, let's didn't go great that night. Let's just take our next best step forward and go do what we know we're capable of. And I think I learned, you know, I think we learned a lot there. And as my career went as an athlete and then, you know, now as a coach, I think when things don't happen the way they're supposed to, but there's still some unbelievable positives in it. You know what I mean? I think you can learn a lot from it and say, okay, like something happens. I lose a match. It's not the end of the world. Let's refocus. Let's, you know, figure it out. What went wrong? Okay, let's make the adjustments and move forward.
All right. Those are really awesome things to say in theory. In practice, in literal application, I mean,
Yep.
not in practice room,
Yep.
in application, they can be more challenging. Do you remember, was there an aha moment? Was there a specific coach that spoke to you that changed your mentality about, hey, I got to relax here. I am burning through lactic acid. I am like hyperventilating. Like I know you're a pretty stiff dude, right? So like, was there a coach or someone or a conversation that was had that said, hey, look, if you don't relax a little bit here, you're gonna kill yourself here.
Yeah. Yeah. It was Coach Robinson. You know, his big thing to me was, you know, I got sucked into the rankings, you know, wins or losses and doing some of that stuff. And you know, he came to me and the one thing that I use a lot and he used to me was like, hey, okay, there's a calm before the storm. Like, hey, relax. Like you can't get so worked up and then walk out there and think you're going to be able to compete for 7 minutes, right? Like we're wasting valuable energy, you know, mentally, physically, everything in the warm up. He's like, there's a calm before the storm. And then I think the other thing that he said to me a lot was, you can't control the wins and the losses, right? Like I can't control whether my hand gets raised or not. I can control my attitude and effort. And if I just go out there and compete for 7 minutes, I'm going to get the results I want more often than not. Right. So those were the big things that I know he said to me, like calm before the storm, relax a little bit. Okay. You don't have to be pacing back and forth, which I have to tell myself as a coach sometimes still
Sure.
too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, hey, settle down, relax.
I don't always have to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Myself.
Exactly.
I don't have
right?
to do that. I don't have to
Yep.
do that. That's nonsense.
Yep. Yeah. And then again, it was like, okay, go compete for 7 minutes. And sometimes you'll get your hands raised. Sometimes you may not, but the majority of the time, if you go out and just compete for 7 minutes, more often than not, you're going to get your hand raised. You don't have to worry about all those other things and stressors. And I think that was a big piece of when I changed, really jump levels my freshman year. When I started to focus on letting go of the rankings, results, wins, losses, all that stuff. And I just went out there and competed for 7 minutes.
Yeah, that makes sense, man.
Again,
J-Rob,
easier said than done, right? Like
for
it's not, I still
sure.
have to,
It's not
I
easy.
still mentally had to change it and do it, but that
Right.
was,
And that
key
takes effort
phrases
too.
that
That's what
were
people
coming.
don't realize. That takes an effort. That takes a concerted effort to go, okay, I know my mind is going in this direction right now. I know it is.
Yeah.
I don't need to go there. I don't need to go
Yeah.
there. There's no reason.
Yeah.
There's nothing about what I'm thinking that I can control. So what's the freaking point? Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
By the way, J-Rob, underrated as a motivational type of coach, right? Like a
Oh yeah.
lot of people like in the space talk about him and how he revolutionized marketing in the sport and how he brought more people to Matt. All that's one, and yes, 100% true. Underrated as a motivator.
Yeah. Yeah. He was such an amazing leader, coach, like, and just yeah, getting you to believe in yourself and push yourself. And, it was always bigger than just each individual for Jay. It was bigger than, and I think that was one of the things that I think helped me as an athlete too, and helped a lot of us on the teams I was on. It wasn't about us. It was about the team, you know. And if I go out and try to just win for myself, man, that's tough at times when I don't feel great, when I'm beat up, when I'm got a bad knee, whatever it is. But man, it's hard to let those 30 other guys sitting on the bench behind me, all the fans and my coaches and everything that they've done. Like, you can always do a little bit more for someone else than you can for yourself sometimes. And the team aspect was so important to Jay and us that we did it, I think, more for our teammates and the other guys on the team than we did for ourselves sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. You know, Jay coming from an Iowa background, and I use Gable in this instance quite a bit when I speak to Hawkeyes. I think a lot of what Gable personified and put out there in the 80s and 90s kind of got bastardized by a lot of low-level coaches. I think we worked an entire generation of athletes into the ground because they thought that they had to be Dan Gable, everybody. And I don't know how much good that did. It worked out for Brent Metcalf. It did. It worked out for him because he was that type of an athlete. It worked out for
Yeah,
Tom and Terry because they were that type of athletes. But what people don't know is that Joe Williams was not on the same training regimen as Tom and Terry, right?
yeah,
And that was because Gable knew, oh no, 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 no. He doesn't have to go 6 hours a day, right? He doesn't have to. You just let the lion out of the cage and let him pounce, right?
yeah.
So what, in your estimation, about what J Rob did? Because everyone hears about the 28-day camps. Everybody hears about the things that you guys did in the wrestling room in the late 90s, early 2000s that would make, a billy goat puke. What about his wrestling coaching gets kind of bastardized?
I think a little bit like, and this is if you Jay had some, I gotta be careful when I speak to it because I wasn't necessarily there at the time. I just, hear a little bit. I think throughout it took Jay a while to figure out his process, right? I think when he first got here from Iowa, it was we're gonna go, 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 three times a day. As we get closer, we're gonna push even harder. And I think as he got, well, it was about 10 years into his career because he got here in 86. By like, I think 97, we won our first trophy. But I think he started to figure things out a little bit like, okay, yeah, we're going to push super hard and we're going to get these guys ready. Mentally, they're going to be as strong as they can be. And then we're going to peak them. We're going to get them ready. We're
Mm,
going to pull them back a little bit. And that's when I think you started to see, because you know, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s, he had some good teams that were ranked number one in the country at the time, but we
mhm,
just we weren't able to put it together for whatever reason at the end of the year. And I think throughout that process, he finally figured out like, okay, we're going to push, we're going to train, we're going to get ourselves ready, we're going to be in the best possible shape we can be. But as we get close, we're going to pull back the reins a little bit. We're going to be fresh. We're going to be
mm.
excited when we walk out on the mat. And I think when he figured that piece out, for him as a coach, that's where we really saw us jump levels in 97,
Mhm.
98. I think that was a 7-year period where we were top three in the country.
Yeah. Is it? It's amazing to me that more coaches don't see that type of a value.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I don't care. Like, I'm not on staff, so I'll tell you that Team California runs these kids into the ground at their Fargo camp. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like, it's nonsense to me.
Yeah.
You know, 3 times a day the week before you compete in the biggest tournament in the world. I don't, I don't know that that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Like,
think it's such
yeah.
chaotic thinking, or archaic
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah. I think, again, like, it's so different now too. Like, training is so different. These kids have so many opportunities, whether it be RTC practices, whether it be clubs are amazing. Well, I look at what some of these 7, 8 year olds are doing. I don't know if I ever did that in college in my
Right.
prime, right? Like, they're
100%.
just they're technically so good. They have such good training. Like, we don't have to get these guys ready to go. They're ready by the time they get there. They've been on a regiment training schedule. Like, they're ready to go. There may be 1 or 2 guys that live out in 3 hours from the city that don't have that training. But again, we ain't getting them ready in 3 days or 5 days or whatever it is anyway, right? So we gotta tailor to the guys who have put the training in. And for the most part, your high level guys, all those guys are doing that. They're ready to go. They have way better training you know, than we ever did. And they
No
have
question.
legitimate plans and cycles, and they're ramped up, ready to go.
100%. And look, when these Fargo camps started, because I'll talk about New Jersey. That's where I grew up. Yeah, we needed to get the weight off. We need to get weight, like, you know, we needed to get, you know, I didn't know a gut wrench. Because there was no one teaching me. I get it. That's not
Yeah.
the case. Every one of these
No.
kids is a pro. Every one of
Yeah.
these kids is a pro. That if you're on the podium at Fargo as a junior, you're a pro athlete, right? I mean, these
Yeah.
kids are
Yeah.
pros.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the past year. Um, Gophers had a decent little year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the group chat like with the guys from the 2001 team when Penn State put 10 on the podium this year?
So it's kind of funny. Obviously, there's been a few years ago, Iowa had a team that they thought maybe could do it. Not
Hmm.
last year, but the year before. Penn State,
Hmm.
well, the last 3 years, it seems like they've had a team that has been close to doing it. Then it's
Sure.
kind of funny. Jared always sends a chat out, a message out to all the coaches that were on the team, and the 10 All-Americans. He sends it out, and he's like, "I got champagne on ice as soon as the first one goes down," he says. So that's kind of the
I was
thing.
there when when Davis lost, by the way.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was right next to Jared. He was visibly happy.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, their records are made to be broken. You'd love to hang on to them forever, but it's part of it. I would say the sport's evolved a little bit too. Things have changed. Like, I don't know if you're ever going to have 10 All-Americans again with guys you recruited in and brought in as freshmen, you know.
Mm.
So it is different. NLI's changed things a little bit. And I'm not taking anything away from what those guys
No,
did.
I
Like,
get it.
it's
And you
it's
can't, right? Because they're
unbelievably
competing under
unbelievably
the
hard.
100%, they're competing
Yeah,
under the rule set in which they are allowed to compete in.
yeah, yeah,
But, but, but you take away a 6-year senior, you take away a 5th year of eligibility, you take away NIL guys coming in from the Gophers, right? I mean,
yeah,
they've had guys come in from Minnesota's team. It becomes a little bit different. And I'm not saying that there's a caveat or an asterisk on their win, because there's not, because they're
yeah,
competing under the rule which they have been provided. But I think you're right. Like, in a world that we live in now, I don't see it ever happening again. 10
yeah,
All-Americans that were recruited to the same college.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And again, we weren't we're not the only one anymore, but we're still the first. So we can
Yeah,
hang on.
that's
We can
true.
hang on to that one.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we're talking about the differences in the sport now, we're kind of running up on time, but how you've been coaching for a while. How has the sport, what's the biggest change in the sport since you started coaching?
Are you talking about like the
Your
sport
job
itself or
description.
college
No, your
athletics?
job
Yeah,
description.
yeah. I think the biggest thing is obviously we are full-time coaches, we are full-time fundraisers. Is one of the biggest things that I see, which is, it's always been part of it. It was um you're coaching, then RTCs became big, right? It's like, oh, okay, we got to fundraise for the RTCs. Whoever has the best RTCs is going to get the better athletes. So RTCs are super important. Now it's NIL, right? Like whoever's got the most money doesn't guarantee anything, but it helps, right? So like you're
Pretty much one
constantly,
for one.
yeah, right? You're constantly fundraising to take care of the guy, for the portal, and more than anything, for us is we want to take care of the guys who come here, who commit to us and do what they're supposed to on the mat. And then we want to be able to, to take care of them as well too. So I would say that's one of the biggest things. I think the other thing is it's become a little bit more transactional
Yeah.
in the recruiting process, even in your team a little bit too. Sometimes I one of the things I love about coaching, and I have guys that I coached maybe my first year in coaching that I talk with, once a month, once every 3 months, right? Like the relationships are what I love about the sport. Obviously, I want to recruit a guy, I want to bring him in here, I want to develop him, I want to put him on the podium. I'm hoping he stays around and trains in our RTC, and I'm hoping have a lifelong relationship with them. That's what I love about the sport. And, I do think it's different than other sports, because I'm actually like on the mat with them, right? Like I'm grinding with them, I'm sweating with them, you know what I mean? I'm bleeding with these guys. So I think the bond, the relationship there is probably a little bit different than some of the other coaching world, I would say. But
Sure, we're not Tommy Lasorda. We're not Tommy
yeah,
Lasorda that just puts on the uniform and then, oh, you're part of the team. No, no, you're still Tommy Lasorda. You're just sitting on with a goofy outfit, you
yep,
know?
yep. So, and then, again, it just, yeah, it's changed, you yeah, just the transactions and some of that stuff it's just become different, right? Than what I was used to when I first got here. It was recruit a guy, develop them, help them to be the best wrestler they can be, help them, to become a better person than when they got here, which is a big piece of what we try to do here at Minnesota too, right? Like we want to help them to become the best wrestler they can become a great wrestler, but more importantly, become a great human being and have a great career after they're done. Because wrestling ends for the most of us at some point, and I want to make sure that we're setting these guys up for success long after their wrestling career is over. And
Yeah,
it seems like a little bit some of those relationships are lost in the new world.
it's tough. It's tough
Yeah,
because it's hard to blame a kid. It's hard to blame a kid that like
yeah,
somebody calls with a big old check and you life-changing money and
yeah,
you
yeah.
got to take it.
Yeah, it's just
But
different. It's a different world. And, I think that's why it's so important even now, where you continue to cultivate and build those relationships. And it's more about wrestling, or it's less about wrestling and more about developing these guys and, building trust in them and knowing that they have your back. And um yeah, just trying to continue to cultivate those relationships that
all
um
right. Well,
yeah,
hold on though. Let's see if we can try our best to look into a crystal ball. After the house settlement that just came through,
yeah.
um, do you think there will be a quote unquote salary cap put on wrestling?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. To be honest, I don't think so. I don't know, like, I don't know how, like, what's the going rate? I don't know. What is the going rate? If someone's willing to pay, that's the going rate. I just don't know how they do that, and
Mhm.
again, I think it's going to be less about wrestling, but what happens when a football player comes in and wants a $5 million deal and they turn that down? Now we're going to court again. And
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It may get stopped for a little bit, but now we're going to have, we're going to be down the road, and 5 years down the road, there's a big settlement and they're saying, well, you can't cap NLI. If it's a going rate, if someone's willing to pay it, it's a going rate. So will it maybe slow it for a little bit? Possibly, but I don't, eventually someone's going to get upset. Someone who's got deep pockets is going to sue. They're going to win. And now we're back right where we
To where
were.
we were.
I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there a way
I,
to put guardrails on this though?
I don't know. I wish there was. Again, I'm not against. I want guys to be able to make money and benefit. I want it to be more of a equal playing field, right? Like not not even for us here at Minnesota. Like I don't want to see more sports dropped. And unfortunately, I feel like as these things develop and more money gets thrown in and more money has to be fundraised, like wrestling's going to take the hit again. It's always the non-revenue male sports that take the hit, wrestling being one of them, right? Baseball, I think, is going to get crushed with this as well, too, in certain conferences, right? In the SEC, baseball's the
Yeah,
number
no
three
problem.
sport. They're going to do really
Nope.
well. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's going to hurt the overall sport because there's not the northern team that comes out of nowhere once every 10 years, right? That puts just a really good team together and recruits because they're not going to be able to stay with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Joel Shaw, anything before we get going here on our sprint?
Bring it home.
Bring it home. Man says bring it home. All right. Don't think about these answers. Shoot from the hip. Try your best not to give me coach speak. All right. All right. What's the best wrestling shoe of all time?
The aggressor.
Okay. All right. Very good. I appreciate you saying aggressor and not rule-ons, right? Because those are different. But yeah,
Yep.
I agree. They're pretty good. They're well-made shoes. Very
I
good.
love it. I wish I could find some more. I wear them every day. So, but I'm wearing
Yeah.
them out. So if anybody out there has a size 8 that they want to get rid of, let me know.
All right. Sounds good. All right. All the stuff that we talked about, especially the mindset stuff, the taking pressure off of yourself stuff. Is there a book that you can kind of recommend for young athletes or even young coaches to read that they would be able to flip that switch and maybe take some of the pressure off of themselves?
Man, that's a tough one. I don't read a lot a lot of
That's all right.
books. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head
All right.
on
We'll
that
move
piece of
along.
it.
We'll
So
move
I
along.
apologize on that.
No, that's fine. All right. Next question. You get 4. They got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling? And I'm not letting you off the hook on this one.
Yeah, I would say I'd say Gable,
Mm-hmm.
Steveson. He's
Mm-hmm.
a he's just he's a freak of a talent, and I mean I'm hoping he's going to come back and wrestle. I don't know what his plans are. We're sitting down, we're going to talk, we're going to try to figure out some of those things, but he's generational, man. He's a super freak. I would say John Smith. I grew up watching John wrestle. He was um, kind of one of my idols growing up, so he would definitely have to be on there. Um,
This is where it gets tough, Beck.
it is gets tough. There's so many out there. Like I really enjoyed watching Kerry Colott wrestle.
Nice. That's a good one.
The way he competed. I know he maybe didn't have the career that everybody wanted, but I just love how he wrestled through positions and was able to make his wrestling his own. It wasn't your typical style of of wrestling, but it was just I really enjoyed watching him. And then God, fourth one here.
You guys will
I
be
mean,
surprised.
so many
to
good
know
ones.
that
I'd say
that's the-
Burrows.
You guys will be
Yeah.
surprised to know that that's the first time Kerry Collette has been.
Is
on
it
the
really?
floor.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. He had the biggest bag of tricks. And so, just to be clear, your fourth one was JB, and that's
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I mean, he's
I mean,
the best, one of the best ever. And he's carried himself as a. I mean, shoot, he's might not be done yet. So
no, 100%. But just
Yeah.
going back to Kola and how criminal it is that he's not on this list more. I can remember doing camps with him, let's call it 20 years ago, maybe 15, 17 years ago, and going, wait, you're out, like you're elite at this too? Like this too? Right? Like, wait, you're elite at folk style bot, like elite? Like you're elite at hand fighting on folk style and bot, like you have 17 different tricks to do that? Oh, yeah, there's levels to this.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
there's levels. Yeah. Okay. Got it. He was a freak, man. All right.
Yeah.
Last question.
yeah.
You get a magic wand and you get to change one thing about the sport of wrestling, and it changes tomorrow. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't have to be rules. Doesn't have to be anything. Immediately it changes. And what would that be?
I would start at heavyweight in the matches, not run it all the way up, but then I would end in the middleweight when you get the best, most toughest wrestlers. How do you like that?
All right. I like that. So we have to
part
put
of
on
that's part of that's a little bit of a joke. We go back and forth on who are the best wrestlers. Sanders says the little guys, the big guys. I always say the big guys, and then I was a middle wrestler, so I think the middle wrestlers have the best of all worlds. So I didn't end in the middle somewhere.
Fair enough. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that we could do a better job with dual meets in creating more of a spectacle, more of a
for sure.
product. I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Coach Becker, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Enjoy the time, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks, guys.
Wait. Don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.